competing in the mirrorless market now. Everybody and their brother. People that you haven't even think of as camera makers. Blackmagic has a camera that takes micro four thirds lens. DJI. I mean, just people you don't even think of as camera makers are making mirrorless cameras. How many people are making? How many companies are making rangefinder cameras? One, Leica. How many people are making rangefinder monochrome cameras? One, Leica. How many companies are making rangefinder film cameras? One, Leica. Okay, so now look at Pentax. What is Pentax doing? Well, first, like I talked about with the monochrome versus the M11 monochrome, they're coming in at 20 to 25% of the price. But how many companies are actively developing DSLRs these days? One, Pentax. How many companies have a monochrome DSLR? One, Pentax. How many companies have a newly designed film camera out? One, Pentax. And how many companies are going to have a film SLR in the next 2 or 3 years? One, Pentax.
Does no one else have a new film camera?
No, you've got the M6, which is a revamp of the. It's basically the same as the M6 that they were making 30 years ago. So it's the same camera. It's not a new camera. You can purchase it new, but it's not a new design. This is a completely new design for 2024. Does that matter? I don't know, but they're putting the R&D money in to it.
And nobody else is doing that either.
No, nobody else is.
I
Now
mean,
there is the Rolly AF, but that's also
just a repeat.
well, it's kind of they took the old Rolly design and they added autofocus. I think it's a very good thing, but it's also kind of a Kickstarter-y thing. Which again, I don't mean any disrespect. I mean, what are the chances are that if they come out with a came out version of this, you'll be able to get lenses for it? 100%. Okay. What are the chances that the Kickstarter company that came up with Rolly is going to be around next year? You don't know. You don't know. And again, that's not a disrespect to them. It's just Pentax is the one company out of the camera manufacturers that's putting R&D money in and developing film cameras.
Did you say what did you say the next one on the palette was coming down there?
The next one they've been saying for a while will be an advanced compact. And I have no insider information.
Yeah.
They are remarkably coy about any future plans, but I can also look and see what they have. And what they have in this, there are two things I find very interesting. One is the film box is a full frame 35 millimeter, and it's got a half frame mask over it. And the second is when you set this camera and it says zone focus, it actually has an autofocus motor in it. It's moving the lens back and forth to get it into the right zone mechanically. And so it seems to me that you could pull out that half frame mask, put an autofocus lens in there, and then do some software stuff because you would need more software. Obviously, you need more controls, more optimizations in there, and come out with a full frame 35 millimeter autofocus version of this, reusing most of the tooling and parts for the 17. So that's my guess what you'll see next.
And then you said also they're coming out looking at an SLR then?
They've talked about 4 cameras. An entry-level compact. We now know that's the Pentax 17. An advanced compact, an entry-level SLR, and an advanced mechanical SLR. So,
now I just saw a few days ago a interview with 2 guys from Pentax, and they were talking about medium format, and they were talking about it.
yes.
You know, it wasn't like, yes, this is what we're going to do. It was yes, we see a need for it out
But
there.
it's also, you have to remember how, first of all, Pentax is a very, very Japanese company, okay? And for those of you who have never had the blessing of being able to live in Japan, when Americans first moved to Japan, it could take an hour and a half to pick a movie or a restaurant to go to, because no one will say yes or no. Everyone is like, "Oh, let's go see Deadpool." I've heard the reviews are not very strong. That means no, but it's not. They're going to say, but you have to learn to interpret
Subtlety.
hints, allegations, and
Yes.
things left unsaid. Now, they said an entry-level compact, an advanced compact,
Mhm.
an entry-level SLR, an advanced SLR. Well, this is an SLR. This is an SLR.
Yeah.
This is an SLR. So
They haven't.
they
narrowed it
never
down.
said it would be a 35 millimeter SLR. Everyone assumed it would be this.
Yeah.
But would I be surprised if it's an entry level came out and then this? Not at all. Not at all.
Well, I liked how they did it. It's like, they talked about it, and then it's like, boom, it's here.
Yes, that's the way they did.
And when they first came out with the story, I called up and I said, I want to sell it. So whenever I first saw their little video about it, I called up to see how I could sign up. And then I found out about the regional rep down in San Antonio. And she said I was the first one on the waiting list outside of people who already were dealers.
Yeah.
And I'm happy it's out. I mean, I got 14 of them, and I've sold 13 out of them.
Right. Well, I don't know how well you guys can hear this, but here. There's the snick of the shutter, but can you hear this?
Yeah.
Okay. This thing is like a Swiss watch. It's just, I mean, if you get one, you'll shoot film just so you can do that. Right? The mechanics in this, the smoothness of it. I mean, I'm sort of odd that way. I sort of told the story a little bit wrong about people guessing my profession. I have 8,000 published photos, 6,000 published news stories, 5 patents on data architecture. Nobody guesses theater as my as my college major. But the thing is I'm also, for a software guy, I'm very particular about mechanical things. And my kids will tell you that I've offered any of them could have my car if they could just park it, because it's a stick shift. So never got taken up on that. Now they're mad at me. So
You're telling it wrong. You're telling it. What stick shift were you offering to us?
oh yeah, the X5. That was.
See,
I
so
was
that's
sup-
not fair.
Even
It's a
my
stick
friends
shift
who-
in a sports car that's
Not
made
normal.
up like an SUV.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not like a Jeep Wrangler.
I drove a 66 VW Bug with a stick shift.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. The X5 was difficult. Even my friend who'd been driving stick shift as long as me drove it one time. He's like, "How do you even get that car to move?" It's like.
I got
But-
one in the parking lot. Stick shift.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay.
And you know it's safe
Yeah.
out there too. No one's gonna steal it.
But I've only ever owned stick shift cars. I love mechanical watches, automatics
Yeah.
and hand wound, that stuff. And the Pentax 17 falls right into that. I mean
I cannot wait for the next camera because if it's half as good as that is,
The-
it's still going to be outstanding.
the mechanics. I mean, it reminds me of this thing. It's solid. It's solidly built. It's an absolute I think it's an amazing triumph what they did with the 17. So
Does anybody have any questions or anything?
Yeah.
I was in Japan probably, I don't know, around 2010, and I can tell you, I passed through Tokyo. The number of camera shops that are over there, they're everywhere. It's like you could buy a lens on the street. So, and you look at the activity that's on eBay, and that Pentax 6.7 is a prime example of the prices that these things are going for.
yes,
And the market is flooded with them. They're pulling these things out everywhere. So I think that's kind of rekindled this,
yeah.
I think we're going to see a lot more activity.
Oh,
Just like you and I were
absolutely.
talking about film, just in
Yeah.
general.
Like I said, they were hoping, Pentax and their blue ocean strategy. I mean, the reason it's called blue ocean strategy is that the red ocean is where everybody's feeding. But the problem is, unless you're the biggest shark in the water, chances are you might be someone else's lunch. And the most famous example of the blue ocean strategy, the one that gets written up all the time, is when Sony and Microsoft were going back and forth from the PlayStation to the Xbox with the greatest graphics in the world, and Nintendo, which had, for years ruled the gaming market, said, we're behind and we're going to fall further behind. So they came up with the what was it, the Wii?
The Wii.
The Wii.
And everybody laughed about it.
Still had crappy graphics, but it outsold the PlayStation and the Xbox combined because they went in their own direction and forced everyone else to compete with them. And the thing with Pentax now, they've got 3 cameras that they have to do everything possible just to keep up with demand. Demand for the GR series, the GR3s, is so bad that in Japan, you have to win a lottery to get on the waiting list to buy one. You can't just even order one on the waiting list.
Wow.
That's how backed up they are with GR orders. The 17 is in and out of stock everywhere all over the world, to the point where if you go to the Reddit Pentax forums, you see people say, I'm going to Japan next month. Is there any place that will have a 17 I could buy? Because there are none available in my country.
Well, they are going for, on eBay, $600 at times, and I have been told that it's gotten as high as $700.
Yep. And the monochrome took about 6 to 8 months, where you could order one and get it on a normal cycle. And still now, there's still shortages occasionally there. So Pentax is doing, business-wise, a really good job of setting out their own path where they're the only competition in town, and I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago. There's people complaining about the Pentax K1 Mark II hasn't been updated in, I think, 5 years. And if you look at the same time, Nikon has come out with, I want to say, 12 mirrorless cameras in the same time period. But the reason is Nikon is in there against Canon, against Sony, against Fuji. There's so many.
So they have to release
Yes.
one.
And guess what? The Pentax K1 Mark II is still the most advanced DSLR because no one's introduced one. So they can fully wring the profitability out of the R&D, which means on a Pentax 17, did they spend a lot of money on R&D for this? Yes, but they're the only one now. They're the only one. They're the only game. If you want a brand new design with a warranty camera that shoots film, you have from a mainstream manufacturer. Again, I'm not knocking the Rolly one, but you have a 3-year warranty. What does you guarantee that company's to be around 3 years? It's just things that there's a difference between being a company and saying, yeah, we're offering a 3-year warranty, and being me. Okay, if my camera, if you go out of business next year, it's a problem for me. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of money where I could just I'll buy 2 more from someone else. But you have 2 choices right now for a new camera. Okay, you have the $500 Pentax 17, and you have the $5,000 Leica M6.
Yeah, they're getting up close to 6,000.
Yeah, I think actually it is. I think it's like $59.99 or something,
Yeah,
some
they're
ridiculous
getting
amount
up
like
there.
that. So
Yeah. Any other questions?
Here's a question I do have is, since you've kind of seen the whole history of Pentax, that just from all the different cameras. they have.
actually, they're a little bit older than me, so I missed the whole
Modern day.
Modern.
Yeah, at least for a little bit to modern day. But
the bayonet mount. Yes,
yeah, all right,
yeah,
so,
the whole Spotmatic screw mount ones. That's before my time. So
gotcha. So from the bayonet on, is there anything from the older Pentax cameras you would like to see stay in some of the newer camera bodies Pentax is coming out with?
yeah, one of the things I'm not crazy about with the digital Pentaxes. Okay, this is arguably the toughest and most advanced 35 millimeter of its day. Arguably, I said you could certainly make a case for the F3. Canon was kind of in between things at that point. but you could make a case for it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. This weighs more. This is, to me, one of the things about Pentax is, this to me is a Pentax. Okay, the MX, the LX, the ME series, the Pentaxes were tough but small and light, and you could put a pancake on them and slip them into a back jeans pocket. They they were just much more go anywhere. Even this, everyone looks at it and says this is a tank. Really, you got a Mamiya RB67 to point to? It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
Right.
right there. It's heavy, dude.
it's there's just simply there's no realistic way to handhold an RB67. Okay, and I'm not knocking the camera. You don't beat up your dog for being a dog. That's what it is. Okay, but Pentax was always about what's the smallest form factor we can build a tough camera. And I feel like with the digitals they've gotten away from that. I would love to see that monochrome or a camera like that, but in the form factor of I know an MX is pushing it because MX is even smaller than the LX, but even the LX, something that you could strip down and take with a little lens, a pancake lens, or one of the little limiteds, or you could load up and I've got the motor grip and everything else, and you could make it, you could make it an M1 tank out of it. But yeah, I do miss that aspect of the Pentaxes. I mean, if you look at the film cameras here, the LX was considerably smaller than the Canon F1 or the Nikon F3 of the time. The Auto 110 is the smallest, I think still to this day, the smallest interchangeable lens SLR ever made. And the 6.7 is certainly for a 6x7 centimeter. I mean, what's even comparable to being that small and shooting that kind of a negative? Maybe the giant Fuji Leicas, but those were fixed lens.
Mamiya 7, but that's a rangefinder, so it's apples to oranges.
Yeah, but the 7's also square format, isn't it?
There's some that were like 6x7.
Were they? I thought yeah.
But most of them were 6x6. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, I always loved those Mamiyas, so I wondered one, but good lord, those lenses are expensive.
I want to see that Pentax lens. That's just, I can see. You've been talking about this thing, and this is the one that you picked up the in. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
If you ever want to gasp, go on eBay and
No,
that lens
I
in there.
I don't, because I just
buy this lens, or I could buy a car.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank you for dropping by then. But if anybody else wants to see those things,
absolutely.
those are great cameras, man.
Yeah, I'll show you one more here. This is that lens on the monochrome. That 135.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That lens, by the way, if you guys are interested in lenses, read up on that lens. That lens has floating rear elements to correct the focus. It has stuff that no one's done before or since.
FLE.
See right through it. Like, it looks
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, man, I want to thank you for coming. It's just,
Well, thank you for having me.
yeah, this is.
Appreciate your
I
time.
love these cameras, man. And like I said, whenever I played with it, and then whenever Mr. Hoga shot it,
Mhm.
and I see the results of it, I'm going. They didn't just think about it. They talked about it. They discussed it. They figured it out. They scratched their heads, and they layered it. I mean, it's just not good. It's like good on good. So it's
Yeah.
really kind of very well thought out.
One of the reasons I've always stuck with Pentax, I mean,
Yeah.
a couple of reasons. One is the interoperability. The fact that I've got this is a 50-year-old lens that fully operates on a 1-year-old
Digital camera.
digital camera.
Yeah.
And, I've got older lenses